Hey, my name's Matt and welcome to the Open Mic Room. Each episode I'll be speaking with a different guest to share some stories and discuss their music. So today I've got a bit of a different episode as I'm joined by Isaac Neilson, an indie singer-songwriter. Is that how you'd describe yourself?
Why not? Sure.
Yeah.
It's not up for me to describe myself. But yeah.
I'm excited for you to take some time out to join me today as you are in the middle of a very exciting challenge. For anyone hearing about this challenge for the first time, what exactly are you attempting?
So I'm performing a gig every single day in 2026. And the sort of question I'm building it around is whether an independent artist from a working class background with no label or backing can find their audience through just persistence and graft. And rather than taking an algorithmic approach where it's driven by online content, it's rooted in community and going and playing small venues day after day and just connecting with people and finding community in that traditional sense.
That's amazing. It jumped out at me as soon as I read what you were doing. What was the moment that made you think, yeah, this sounds good, I'm going to play a gig every single day for a year?
Oh, it was very much a spur of the moment thing. It came because I've been releasing music since 2022, and I started with the vision of playing a festival called Why Not. And
Yeah.
after 2 years, I played Why Not to 4,000 people. And I had this idea that if I could achieve that, the prestige of being on the Quarry stage where the headliners were people like Frank Turner and Jake Bugg, that I could use that momentum to get on the festival circuit the year following, get on some influential support slots and find an audience that way. And it didn't work at all. It was a naive and arrogant assumption. I got absolutely nowhere. So 2025 was me going, do I really want to do this? I've been going for years and gotten nowhere. And I was very frustrated because I felt like the years of work I'd put in had got me just nowhere beyond where I'd really started. So in December, I was at the point where I was going to sell my guitar, move on, do something different. But I had a chat with a friend of mine who's he's kind of like a mentor, and he's worked on some huge records. He's done Frank Turner, he's done stuff with Tony Iommi. And he was like, Isaac, your songs are getting to a point now where what you're writing is good enough to go all in and really give it a shot. And I didn't have the confidence in my own ability to come to that conclusion. So having someone with an external view who objectively had achieved really good stuff in the music industry gave me the push I needed. So it was on New Year's Eve, I finally went, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a gig every day.
Wow.
Because that month of where that idea came, I was terrified because once you publicly declare it on the internet, you've got to do it. Because it's a bit like, if you have a friend and I'm training for a marathon, and then you're like, oh, great, I hope it goes well. And you see them 3 months later and you go, how did it go? And they went, I pulled my hamstring and it was I had stuff going on in life and I didn't do it. It's like, for me, the moment you publicly declare you're going to do a thing and you tell your friends, you have to deliver. So it took me a while. Yeah, it was only on New Year's Eve, hours before I did day one, that I went, right, this is happening. And it's going really well. And today, as of recording, is actually day 200. So you've caught me on a milestone. Well, for the first couple of months, it's weird, but now it is just a normal daily routine to me, where I think once you hit that 3-month threshold, it stops being so bizarre and just becomes your life. Because I'm used to this. I've been doing it for nearly 7 months now. So it's nice to hit these milestones where I can sign off and go, yeah, you become acclimatized, but it's still good to have the milestones that put things in perspective. Because today I'm like, what? How has this happened? There's a few moments, I've probably had 3 or 4 moments of lucidity where I look around and go, this is crazy. How did I end up here? This is the most bizarre thing to do with a year of your life. But for the most part, I'm just sort of in it. But then occasionally I'll be on a car journey back from a gig at 3 a.m. going, this is absolutely mental, which I think is good. But it's nice to recognize that and not take it for granted, because in a sense, I feel privileged to be able to do this. But equally, on the other end of the spectrum, I've thrown my entire life savings at this year. Because I'm not from a family that has any money. So I've essentially just thrown everything I've earned into this. Whereas we have a cost of living crisis, and it's do I just keep grinding and eventually try and make my way onto the property ladder? Or do I just do a crazy year and just go all in on trying to build a career as an artist? And I made the correct decision. Yeah. The logistics are intense because I'm driving on average about 3 hours a day. And I did a costing video for one of my daily entries a couple months ago, and I came to the conclusion that across like 5 or 6 months when I did it, I was making on average £80 a week profit after expenses. So my take home wage was like 80 quid or something stupid, because it cost me thousands to do this, because my car's broken down like 4 or 5 times. There's fuel. I really can't afford accommodation. So I've only so far spent a week in an Airbnb when I did Brighton, because that was a 4.5 hour drive. But for the most part, either staying at home or calling in favors for somewhere to stay. I don't know. I disagree. This is like a lost leader, because to me, this year is about audience building. So the idea is that by day 365, I'll have an audience where I will be able to sort of turn it around and start recouping that money and hopefully make it into something sustainable. It's a big gamble, but I think if the music is good enough, it will work, because it's all good and all going, I'm doing this crazy challenge and I'm getting some press attention. But none of that matters if the core songs and the core performances aren't there. But equally, the year is about developing the craft. So my songwriting and performance skills are improving every day. I'm a far superior musician in every sense. My guitar playing technique, my singing technique, the emotionality of my performances is greater. Because this year I've gone from playing, it's weird because it's like I've gone from playing my songs to performing my songs, and there's definitely a distinction there. Yeah. I mean, the main challenges have been logistical, like my car breaking down, figuring out how I'm going to get from gig to gig while doing everything else. Like I'm launching a vinyl, so I've had to coordinate that and how the storefront's going to work, and then doing press, and then keeping on top of the socials. Every day I make a video, so I have to, it's just the logistical deadlines of every day that's intense. But in terms of audiences and performances, I've done gigs to no one, and I've done gigs to like, I don't know, 1,000 people. But for me, that's like, it's much the same, because I'm there to do a good performance regardless of who's in the room. So I try not to let the scale of an audience or the attention of an audience get in the way of me doing a good job. Yeah, it's kind of funny, really. It's just part of the deal, is that you're going to do gigs to no one when you're doing this much volume. It would be insane to expect otherwise. Just on a distribution of the data, it's like it's going to happen, and it makes for a fun video. And bizarrely, those ones always seem to perform really well. I think it's probably because I'm just not sugarcoating it and going, this is just what it is. And I think a lot of people who follow me, who've been following since early on, were musicians, so they relate to it, because everyone goes through that. And it's up to you whether you feel dejected about it or just treat it as a live rehearsal. Because I think 1 hour on stage is worth 100 at home. Specific day of the week. Yeah. Mondays are usually quite good. I'd say Wednesday is probably the hardest day of the week. I think generally, I don't know what it is, but maybe because it's just slap in the middle of the week, venues seem to be less enthusiastic for live music on a Wednesday. But that's like a logistical sense of finding the show more so than it is doing the performance. Yeah, it is a little bit. Usually I'll wake up, depending on when I've got in, any time between 8 and 10, sometimes 11 if it's super late, although I try not to do that. Usually 8 till 10, I'll wake up depending on how late I've got in. I'll have like half an hour with a coffee, then I'll crack into admin, which will either be emails, bookings, responding to messages, and doing the video edit. If I'm doing any calls and meetings or things like this, it'll usually be between 11 and 3. And then around that, I'll be just doing loads more admin. So it could be writing a newsletter, doing video editing, pitching for gigs, responding to any messages, staying on top of that, or organizing, whatever it may be, like a recording session or making a poster. Then once that's all finished, I'll be spending typically an hour to 2 hours traveling. I'll get to a gig anytime between 6 and 8 o'clock, do the gig. I'm usually in a venue for about 4 hours, and then drive back, go to sleep, do it again. And somewhere in that time, I'll hopefully eat. Mentally, great. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I think a man needs a quest, I think, is the most true statement I can find in life. And if you're moving towards a goal that you've chosen and you want to pursue, no matter how hard it is or what emotional toll it takes on you, when you see you're making progress to delivering on what you set out to do, it's very fulfilling. Whereas like I could have an easy life where I go, you know what, I'm just gonna sit and play games all day and watch YouTube for 12 hours a day. And there'd be no fulfillment in that, even though it would be easier. You know, everyone needs to choose a burden and adopt it and pursue it to the best of their ability. The satisfaction of going, I've done it, is far greater. And when I have really difficult days, I just go, this is going to be a great story one day. And that's the mindset I've adopted to get through this challenge. Physically though, terrible. Because like I used to be in the gym 6 days a week because I was just addicted to the gym and running, doing like 10Ks and stuff. And I've gone from 6 days a week to probably 6 times in 6 months because I just can't find the time to do exercise anymore, which to me is probably the biggest sacrifice I've made to do this. Yeah, does that count as is gigging cardio? That's a question. Yeah, very true. Yeah, there's like no, the social life I have now is entrenched in the work I'm doing, but not attached to performing in the project. I can't have an expansive social life, but I do my best to keep up with people on messages, though I'd say I'm notoriously bad at DMs at the moment because I used to probably get, I don't know, 3 or 4 messages a day, and now I'm easily getting 20 to 30 and on disparate platforms. So it's really hard for me to keep up with who's chatting to me when I'm in amongst doing everything else. The worst day for me emotionally in my mental state was the day after halfway, which was bizarre because I've just achieved this milestone. And it wasn't about the fact that I still had halfway to go. The gig was a special show in a recording studio that was recorded in a sort of tiny desk fashion with a live audience where I did a limited ticket run. And all I could find after I'd got off the stage was the flaws. And I just wasn't happy. I was like, this just isn't good enough. This is not the level it should be at. And I was really frustrated. And it was weird. I've only ever had that specific experience emotionally when I got off the stage at Why Not after playing to 4,000 people. And it's like, there's this weird parallel where after I've achieved a milestone that I've been working to for months, all I can find is the negativity. I think a lot of that is in the adrenaline dump. I think it's just that sort of chemical release of adrenaline that causes a massive crash as your systems sort of go back to equilibrium. But then I've seen the release of some of the footage and I'm like, oh, it was far better than I experienced it. Like it sounded better than how it felt in the moment. And yeah, it's like these massive peaks are followed by massive troughs. So I think it is like there's a few things there. Frank Turner is a big inspiration for me. He has a documentary on YouTube that's about 15 minutes long about the early days and how he'd be writing songs and sleeping on trains. And I massively identify with that. He's also a really nice guy. I met him at Why Not when I played it, and he's exceptionally generous, kind person with his time. But I think that mindset comes from the fact that he's worked for every single thing he's got and nothing's ever been handed to him. And I think I'm trying to follow in those footsteps. And I think the sort of mindset that adopts that path is someone who's more invested and interested in the doing of a thing than the outcomes of it. So the satisfaction is the working towards the goal rather than attaining it. Getting something is really fun. Having something is not. It's like, what you have it, all right, great, you have the thing, but getting the thing is more joyous because then it just, once you have it, it becomes normal. And it's that sort of escalation of getting closer to something, which is where the fulfillment is. It's like writing a song is great fun, recording a song is great fun. And then when it's finished and mastered, I don't care. I don't want to hear it again. Yeah. I think on the whole, my image of communities and people as a whole has massively improved. Not improved. I think people are far better and more generous and kinder than I would have expected. And yeah, it's weird because you interact with an individual person rather than a collective of people. And you can sort of have a different image of what people are like if you view them through a group lens versus as a singular face-to-face interaction. I think the main thing is I'm quite an introverted person by default. And through taking on this challenge, I've had to be extroverted for 200 days in a row. And just overcoming my default wiring to be more talkative with people has definitely changed me as a person. But then so here's an example. Every day when I do a gig, once I've played, I go around to every table with a pen and paper and ask who wants to join my mailing list. At the start, the first few days, it was terrifying, it was daunting, and my skin would crawl. But now I've built up this sort of data set of interactions in my mind where I've realized every single person I will just go up and talk to, having never met before, is incredibly generous and complimentary of their time. Even if they say no and they don't want to join, there's always a good conversation. So people on the whole are more approachable and friendly, even in London, than you would expect. So yeah, I've found that. Yeah. Well, London's a weird like subculture that's completely different to the rest of the country, for sure. But there's a sort of saturation effect there. And I've also found this with gigging in London. Like, I can go and do a gig in like Leicester or Nottingham or Derby or Manchester and then not come back for a few weeks. And then I'll come and do another gig and I can still feel some level of impact of when I last visited. I can return to a community there. You don't get that in London. I think if you want to have any sort of impact in London, you have to be there 5 or 6 days a week, every week, because it's such a dense, saturated scene. And I think that's reflected in the culture of Londoners. It's much more involved and sort of on and on and on. Ooh, it's difficult. I really like Manchester and Nottingham for their sort of sprawling musical communities where there's so much going on and people are just great there. But I also really like Derby because it's a really small city, but there's a very tight-knit community that's very mutually supportive. And I found like I've really enjoyed performing there. Leicester's great. I don't know what it is about Leicester, but like people in Leicester are just up for it. They're like, the crowds are just, there's an energy there. I don't know if it's a student-y thing or something, but like it's just a different, more energetic vibe. And I also really love Brighton. Just as a city, Brighton's great. I did a week there for Great Escape, and it's just, I don't know, I just really love the vibe of Brighton. But I think maybe I'm biased because the cities I've listed are the ones I've spent a lot of time in, except for Brighton. I've only ever spent 2 weeks there of my whole life. But Nottingham, Derby, Leicester, and Manchester are like great. And also Sheffield is really fun too. I really like Sheffield. I've got loads of things booked. I'm going to America in September, which is exciting. One saw my challenge on like day 40 and said, you make it to September, I'll book you a flight and a tour. So that's now happening. But from like October onwards, that's where I'm currently booking. Because like up until October is virtually fully booked. I have a handful of days that I need to book in August and the start of September. But yeah, it's a bit bizarre. It all feels very close. It's like, it's not going to be that long until it's all over, it feels like now. Yes, it's not something I can announce on a space like this right now because it's still very much in conversation. But first I'm in chat with and I'd say it's a nationally iconic venue, but I'm yet to confirm. Yeah, I've had a lot of people around the country go, "What is it? Tell me." And I'm like, "No, not today." Yeah, I've just announced in the last couple days that I'm releasing a vinyl album, which will be releasing on the 1st of January, day 366. So for me, the way for me to identify my success in building and finding community is how well the vinyl performs. And also like, it's nice because some people who've bought it already have said, I don't even have a vinyl player, but I really want to support your journey because I've seen how much work you've put into it and how much money you've spent investing in this where your car's broken down and like fuel. So people have bought it just because they support the challenge, even though they can't play it. So that to me is like exceptionally wholesome and gratifying. And I really appreciate all the support in the community I've had. So for me, the way to see how well this has worked is how well the vinyl performs. And I want to make a run at the vinyl charts. That is the goal. So I think we can do it. Yep, the pre-order's available at isaacneilson.co.uk. It's the Gig-A-Day album. Pre-orders are now up. It releases on the 1st of January. And as part of the sort of community aspect of it, because I've been thinking about this since, February, March? Every person who pre-orders it before September gets their name on the album, on the sleeve. Because it's like, I'm doing this community-first approach that's anti-algorithmic. So it seems fitting that I would do physical media where the community gets to have their stamp on the product with their name in it. So that's how I'm doing it. Yeah, let's go. The halfway show or supporting Reverend and the Makers Reverend and the Makers was great because I wasn't even booked for the gig. I just turned up and asked John McClure if I could play with him. And it took me 4 or 5 hours to even get to a point where I could ask him the question after his entire team told me no. And I was like, the whole day, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. But I met him and he said yes. And that's the microcosm of the whole challenge, getting told no over and over and just sticking through it and finding a way forward. So that's probably the best day. Yeah. Well, I went there 1:00 and I asked his team and they told me no. And I went looking for him for an hour. Couldn't find him. Then lottery winners were playing. I couldn't even get in the shop. I was like, this isn't going to work. I need a backup plan. I need to find someone else. The whole thing's going to fall apart. And no, I'm going to stick around. I'm going to make it happen. Not believing myself when I told myself that. Finally, he was signing albums. I got to speak to him and he was like, yeah, of course you can. Get on after we've played. And it was like, amazing. The famous Barmaid story. I don't think that was the toughest gig. It was stupidly funny. The context of that, for people who haven't seen, is I went to perform and I hadn't purchased a drink, and the lady on the bar took great offense to that and came over going, "You have to kick you out if you don't get a drink." I was like, I'm performing next because there was other performers before me. And she went, this is a pub, unfortunately. I'm going to have to ask you to leave if you don't get a drink. And in the interest of preserving the challenge, I did, in fact, buy a drink before making a video recounting the tale, although I won't name drop them because I don't know if that's their policy or just one person's actions. I don't think it's fair. The worst day was the day after halfway as a gig. That was a nightmare too because the person who was hosting the night I was performing was an egomaniac. But that's a whole other thing. But yeah, the day after halfway was the worst, actively, in every sense. The gig, mindset, fatigue, all of it. Now I'm great. Yeah. Yeah. The thing that's really interesting is if I need to go and look at myself playing, what's the song? No Affection. I've done that every gig because that is just a song that always goes down well. And it'd be interesting to go back and look at how I played it on day one versus now, because I know from people who've seen me like in January and then see me in March and then see me in July, they go, you play that so much better now. And I don't ask them, they just say, you've gotten so much better. Like they can see it and I can feel it. I know it because when I look at the videos of me performing, editing them, I'm less disappointed every day. It's the way I quantify it. Because sometimes I go, you are awful. Why are you even attempt this? But now I'm getting to a point where I'm like, you know what? You're not terrible anymore. You're almost good. And sometimes I look at it and go, you know what? That is a really good performance. You've outdone yourself there. Whereas I wouldn't have said that at the start of the year. But now I'm getting to a point where I'm like, you know what? You're actually getting good at this. But you know what? I'm fine to say that I think I'm getting good now because you know what? I've really worked at it and I've earned it. So I feel like I'm in a place where I can now say you're getting good because it's not a fluke anymore. It's consistency. And it's nice to take from the experience that if you are just committed, consistent, and you work hard, you will get what you want and you can earn your place in the industry and in the world of any field. But best songs would be Getting Better, No Affection, Falling Down. They're my favorites to play at the moment. If you're going to listen to one song, if you want something really energetic with hooks, No Affection would be the one. But if you want a song that takes you on a journey and has a more sort of deep, reflective, emotional resonance, it'd be Getting Better. Biggest luxury. The luxury of this challenge. Yeah, the whole year is a luxury. Because I've found this narrow window of time where I've gone, my only obligation is to myself in pursuing this goal. And my external responsibilities to anything other than pursuing my career and passion are limited. And like I have the get out of jail free card if someone asks me, like my sister might be like, could you babysit? I'll be like, I can't, I've got a gig. But if it's in the daytime, I'll do it. And I have done that. I'll babysit in the daytime. That's fine because I can still get stuff done. But the biggest luxury is I'm taking a year to pursue what I want to do on my own terms, and I'm not accountable to anyone but myself for my successes or failures. And to be in a place where you go, I can go all in on something and this is my job. I don't have to worry about money because at the end of it, if I burn through my savings and I have to go back to work, that's fine because I've given myself a year. To be in a position where you can just pursue your passion and make a good shot of it is the biggest luxury you can have in life. So the whole experience is a luxury, even on the days where it's painful. Yeah, I hope it represents the idea that you don't need to be middle class with connections and nepotism to carve a path in the music industry, which is notoriously built on relationships and favoritism and having a massive marketing budget. I hope that this can be something that demonstrates that it doesn't matter your background. If you work really hard at something, find your own take on how to put it out into the world, and you build community first through consistency and discipline and just continuously reflecting and developing yourself, that you can get somewhere. And the circumstance, it's not your resources, but your resourcefulness that will determine the outcome. Thank you. Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that, truly. Oh, amazing. Yeah. Well, on that subject, because I've got 4 nephews ranging from like a week old to like 10. And they're the most joyous thing in the world. It's like, oh my God, I want kids, because having nephews and the joy and the innocence and their curiosity and their sense of humor is infectious. And the thing I love with how they're parented is, here's the analogy. I started doing open mics when I was 12. And people used to go to me, you're so talented. You're really good. My God, you're so naturally gifted. And it was the worst curse ever, because if you tell someone they're talented, they think they have an innate thing, which means that they will have everything sort of gifted to them because they just have this sort of magnificent presence or whatever. And when you're in formative ages, before you've entered the real world, it will shift your perception from hard work to an innate sort of gift where things will come to you naturally. Whereas you want to tell a kid who's 12 years old in a pub, you must have worked really hard for that, and reward the processes of diligence more so than some innate mysterious gift that doesn't exist. And this is the thing I love with my nephews, is they've been rewarded for the hard work, even though they are naturally intelligent kids. No one tells them that. They tell them, you know what, you worked really hard on your homework, and that's why you've done really well. Or one of them just did a theatre production. It was the hard work that was rewarded rather than a natural inclination for doing drama and acting. So I hope that I don't believe in participation trophies. I think like relentlessness and self-reflection should be what's encouraged more so than a sort of wishy-washy culture of just, well, you did a thing. It's like, well, do a thing, like actually do the thing. And I think when kids see the rewards from their efforts, it's more gratifying. I think the thing why I found so much resonance in my challenge is that it's universally applicable. Like if you're writing a book or any pursuit of like, I want to build a game or a software or like anything, or I want to be a painter, or I want to start a clothing brand, it's all the same lessons are universally applicable. Because I think being a musician, if you watch Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay, the exact same lessons apply. Because Gordon Ramsay's like, you're taking shortcuts here. That isn't clean. You haven't taken the care of the customer. It's the exact same things. Cooking and music are the exact same thing. It's throw a bunch of ingredients in, have a delicate balance of spice and foundational elements. You want a nice color palette, which you do in instruments with timbre. It's the same thing. Cooking and music are the same thing. It's just a different medium, and it's the same lessons. Yeah. If you can't hold yourself accountable, somehow you have to externally outsource your accountability. Yeah. Because I'm lazy. I'm the most lazy, procrastinating person you'll ever meet. But because I've said it on the internet, I've got I don't know, however many thousand followers holding me to account. And if I don't do it, they'll be pissed off. That's great. Yeah. Nottingham. Yeah. So what was it? I should know this. It's a place called Katie's. You know, they've bailed me out a few times because I've done a few for them, and often with the World Cup on Wednesday, I had a cancellation, and then they reached out and went, "Do you want 2 gigs?" I was like, "All right, great." So that's nice. Yeah, this is the thing. World Cup final on day 200 is not ideal, but here we are. Thank you, and thank you for taking the time to talk. Buy the vinyl. Pre-order it. It ships January 1st.